everyone. Welcome to the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessie from the Gardener's Workshop, and today I have a very special episode where we're going to be talking with the family behind the Gardener's Workshop. I have with me here today Lisa and Suzanne and Kelly, and we're going to go through and talk to them about their involvement in the business and share some fun stories. So I want to start out with you, Lisa. And I'd love for you, even though everybody knows your face, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, when you started the business, and you can kick us off.
Sure. Thank you, Jessie. And thank you so much for doing this. This has been something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm excited to rope our whole family in that has come and gone through the years. So, so I started flower farming, didn't really know that's where I was heading back in 1998 after I read the book that so many people read that got started in this industry, Lynn Byczynski's The Flower Farmer. And Steve and I had just gotten married. He came with this incredible little piece of land in the middle of the city, which was like a utopia. It was, he was a big gardener, and it was just door after door after door opened, and I marched through it. And back then my business name was Ziegler Garden. But then as things developed through the years, as I began speaking and teaching, and then we wanted to launch an online garden shop, that's when the name, the Gardener's Workshop, which actually Suzanne is the one that came up with that name was born when we were trying to get legal to be an online store and get registered. And so that was in 2005 when we went from Ziegler Garden to the Gardener's Workshop. And when we became the Gardener's Workshop, that's when we brought the online garden shop on. And Suzanne and I were, my goodness, traveling all over Kingdom Come, doing programs and conferences and pop-up shops and shopping shows. And we just pounded the pavement, traveling everywhere. And one thing led to another. And here we are today with that same footprint, but it's just keeps growing in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it's transformed quite a bit over the years, hasn't it?
It's when I look back, it is just really hard to believe. When I look back to our high production years, the images of the tens of thousands of stems of flowers that we seed started by Kelly, got planted, we harvested, we bundled, we sold, we delivered, we made into bouquets. Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming, but we did it.
So Lisa, at the very beginning, were you doing everything, doing all the farming, all the promoting and that kind of thing?
Yes. So of course, back when I started flower farming, there was no social media. There was barely internet, literally. And so, yes, I think that, Suzanne, when did you start doing the farmer's market? Was it like 2002 or 2003, I think?
Yeah, it was early on when you were doing the farmer's market, I think, at Colonial Williamsburg, on Duke of Gloucester Street. It was just beautiful. And I got to do the fun stuff. I just showed up and made bouquets and helped customers and just watched them all ooh and ah over all the beautiful flowers. And that's how I learned that you can always make a beautiful bouquet out of beautiful flowers, just putting them together. So that's where it all started.
So Suzanne, I was doing florist and farmers markets back then. I mean, I was selling to anybody that had $1 for my flowers. I was really hustling. And oh my gosh, I was delivering twice a week to florists and going to this big farmers market on Saturday in Colonial Williamsburg. And finally, I just said, okay, I'm going to get Suzanne. And then I actually got one of our cousins, Seth, to be her helper. So I didn't even have to go to the farmers market. And then during that time oh my goodness, so many family, as I'm thinking about this, so many family members have come and gone. Suzanne doesn't even really remember it. But back in the very beginning, when I was still helping my husband's family business, Ziegler Plumbing, I had a day job. Suzanne and Sarah is Kelly's mom. She's married to my brother. And she has gone on to become other things in the company now, but she and Suzanne did a little bit of harvesting for me in my absence. And I didn't know what I was doing. They didn't know what they were doing, and it didn't work out very well. So anyway, it's a real journey for sure.
Right, right. So, it's great to have family members that are happy to jump in and help out with that kind of thing. But it's true that oftentimes they don't have the same education or experience that you have. And, so as you bring people into the fold, they tend to find the place where they have the best skills to be able to help out, right? So, Suzanne, when you started out with the farmers markets and such, where did you go from there with the business?
So from the farmers markets, then we started the online garden shop. Lisa thought of things for us to do, things for us to sell, and I had to figure out how to make it all work. So I was shipping and receiving, I was the graphics department, I was, you name it, and I did it. So it just ballooned from there. Soon we became so busy, I couldn't handle doing everything all at once. I was making the catalog. I made her first book. It just became more than I could handle, and it was keeping us from growing. So then we started bringing on more people, not just in the selling flowers, but in the online business. Kelly helped us both. Kelly and I both were on the harvest crew. We did all of that. We made bouquets for the farmers, for the grocery stores, and we were still doing farmers markets. One year we almost died because we were still doing farmers markets, 2 farmers markets, and all of the grocery stores, all of the florists. I'm not sure how we lived through that year.
Right.
We finally gave up farmers markets and just did the florist and the supermarkets. But that kind of was holding back the online store because we didn't have the time to do that and other things we needed to do. So finally we started bringing more people on, and it ballooned. And so now it takes how many people to do what I used to do, sister?
A lot.
Well, it's a juggling act, right? As you start to grow a business.
And we've been so fortunate. We have such great people on board. They're doing a way better job than I could ever do. And it's just helping our business grow. And now I get to do the fun things that I like to do. I do a lot of the graphics and, get to do the newsletters and edit the podcasts and all of those things. So it's the fun stuff for me now, and oversee, everything else that's going on. But our crew is so great. That's, easy peasy. So.
So now, Kelly, you are Lisa's niece. Is that right?
Yes. I am Lisa and Suzanne's brother's daughter. And I would say it's been about 11 years now. 11 years ago, I started. As Suzanne was saying, they were starting to grow and get busier than just Suzanne could handle. It was a time where I'd actually gotten laid off from my career type job that I was working. It was just the time, the times were like that. A lot of people were getting laid off. So I sadly was laid off, but actually now it's the biggest blessing in my life. I had a 1-year-old. I wasn't, I was kind of looking for work. And Lisa just called me in one day and said, we're kind of growing and Suzanne needs help. And I need somebody to come in here who can just do it all, just kind of go in where you can go in and help wherever it's needed. So I love that idea, especially with having just coming in part-time with having a little one. And I started off by, helping Suzanne package the orders, and I harvested in the beginnings. And those times I think I did a little bit of, emails and stuff because my background is in business and marketing. So I did a little bit of the emails. And those times they were torn all over the place, and they would bring back little paper slips with names and emails on them. And I would spend half a day entering in these email addresses that we had collected and the names. Yeah. So I think, just like Suzanne, we were all just kind of filling in where we needed and doing what we needed. And I did harvest for several summers. And I will say that was probably my least favorite job that I've had over these 11 years. It's hot. It's a lot of bending over. It's hard work. I mean, it really makes you appreciate what farmers do, and especially, getting our food and our flowers and all of that kind of stuff. So I say Lisa's definitely good at seeing, what people are good at and maybe what's not their favorite. So I went from that to being, when we were in the high production, I did all the seed starting. I mean, I started thousands upon thousands of seeds, every week. All those sunflowers she's talking about starting succession, I did those each week, and really started a ton of seeds and helping out Lisa and Suzanne. And then it kind of grew. Yeah. And I remember one day I was starting seeds and Lisa texted me and said, come out to the garden. And I came out there, and I can picture this. You were harvesting trilobia. So you're standing, you know how that is. It's like a huge overgrown patch, and she's got these huge stems. And she says, I have an idea. And I'm like, okay, which I'm sure Suzanne can think. We're like, okay.
I usually sit down when she says that to me.
What's the idea now? She says, I really feel like we can start to teach farmers how to do this. I just think that people need to know how to do this, that it's possible, and we can do these online courses. And, we just had a good conversation about the idea of these online courses. And so it kind of grew from there. That's when it all started. We started doing the research and looking into these online courses and how they would, how they run and what kind of programs. And so that kind of became where my job went, is to manage these online courses and help to, build them out and help the customers and help all of our instructors, which, in the beginning, it was just Lisa. But then, we brought on Dave Dowling and Jenny Love. And so I work with them as well, helping to make their courses the best that I can make.
Yeah. And helping with their promotions for their courses to make
so
sure everybody knows they're available.
Gone back into the marketing realm too, marketing the courses and building out, the website and sales pages. So I do manage the website as well.
Yeah, that's a big job.
I enjoy it though. I mean, Lisa really she can see where you are a best fit and put you there. So I really enjoy my job, and that's, a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, that's great. It's so nice that you found a position that you're excited about and that you really feel like you're a good fit for. Lisa, do you want to talk about some of the other folks who couldn't be with us here today, but that have helped you along the way?
Sure. So a real key player, especially from the beginning, was Kelly's mom, Suzanne, and my sister-in-law. She's married to our brother, Sarah. And Sarah, just like these two, has always just been, they'll do whatever needs to be done. I mean, is that not the key to a great small business, is the flexibility of, never do you want to hear that wasn't in my job description. And I have never heard that from anybody. I mean, they'll do any and everything. And Sarah was that way from the beginning. When that first time that I had her and Suzanne start harvesting, I knew nothing back then. And so I really couldn't prepare them for that. She and Suzanne both kind of said, this isn't what our favorite thing to do in life is, so we quickly figured that out. But when we launched the online garden shop, which became the Gardener's Workshop in 2005, part of the struggle that I faced, the whole point of that garden shop was to sell the things that I use in the garden, seeds, tools, and supplies, right? Well, we couldn't find a seed supplier for the flowers that I was growing with instructions that really were complete enough for me. Like, should the seed be covered with soil or not? That seems to be a real missing component. At least it was back then. I haven't looked at many other people's seeds nowadays, but we couldn't find a line of seeds to sell through our garden shop. So I told Suzanne, well, let's just figure this out, and we'll just buy more seeds than what I'm buying to plant, and we'll package them with my instructions. So we needed somebody to package those seeds. And Sarah was like, oh my gosh, that's like the perfect job for me. I would love to sit at home and count seeds all day or weigh them, you do a little bit of both. So Sarah was our sole seed packer for years. I mean, she packaged seeds year round. It was just an ongoing thing. And she's also helped us man open farms. And so she's just really plugged in. Also, we've had some family members that have jumped in on a temporary basis. I mentioned Seth, who is one of Steve's cousins that just lives around the corner, that has helped us with markets way back when we were doing the Williamsburg Farmers Market, as well as Kelly's brother, Blake's wife, Cammie, who is an entrepreneur herself. She bakes. What's the name of her business? I don't want to screw it up, Kelly.
Sugar Bee.
Sugar Bee by Cammie, I think is what the name of it is. And she bakes, which we all have a great appreciation for cookies. So that fits in. Anyway, during her slow time when we need a packager, Cammie has just stepped in and picked up that torch. And it's really pretty amazing. And then of course, my husband, who has been Stevie, who was my cheerleader before I even started, right? He's the one that cheered me to go to the first florist when I was so afraid, and has taken care of equipment. People undervalue those of us that are trying to farm that don't have somebody there on site that not only can start stuff, fix stuff, help you figure out what you need. Is they know what I'm talking about. It's just priceless. And I mean, Steve's support and confidence. And of course, Steve has been my backer financially from time to time back in those early days where you need infusions of cash flow. And, and saying that, it's like so much is rushing back in my mind right now. And I don't even know if Kelly knows this, but Mom and Dad gave a big infusion of cash in the very beginning. Do you remember that, Suzanne? When we were launching the Gardener's Workshop, I mean, catalog printing, and Daddy was like, oh my gosh, we want to be a part of this, and took me about 3 years to pay him back, but we did. And, family is just priceless. A lot of people feel like, how do you work with all your family? Well, first off, I can't imagine not working with them. And it's not better than strangers. It's just, you just happen to know what their punch points are, right? Especially with your siblings. And you just learn, I think it's a practice in rolling over, giving up. You don't have to be right all the time, being courtesy and respectful and honest and fair. And I also want to say that I have always paid every family member. No one has ever volunteered or been, that's not an expectation on my part. That's never been a part of it. So I know that other people may do that differently, but I think that's built a culture here that family first and always.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about, what advice you might have for other small businesses that are, family operated or sole proprietors that are really struggling and looking for, maybe an opportunity to ask some family to help out, that kind of thing. And so I think you touched on some good points there about, being mindful of what people's strong suits are, and being sure to compensate people and that kind of thing. Do you have any other things that you would want to bring up along that vein?
I think probably, the biggest struggle has been between Suzanne and I, and that's because we've been together the most. I mean, we traveled together, we have worked together day in and day out. And, every day is not peachy keen. I mean, there are days when, my bossiness just comes out, which is what entrepreneurs has. But guess what? Suzanne has that same wonderful trait. And there are days that we would have little, we'll call them baby power struggles. And then one of us will finally just like, what are we doing? We don't say that, but one of them will say, all right, what were you talking about? Let's look at it that way. Or you have to realize, and I learned that from my husband, who also works with his siblings, his nieces and nephews, and his parents. And I really learned that being honest and respectful and listening, that's probably the hardest part for this gene pool, is for us to wait while other people finish talking. And because it's not like you know what I mean? We want to be helpful. And so you just have to look at what your family traits are, and the things that are good about you. Guess what? Your family members most likely have those too, but that can create a little rubbing, and you just have to kind of step back sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Kelly, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just hearing her say that, when I talk about my job, because of course you talk to your friends and all that about your job, and I'll say just the grace that Lisa has is just, and people say, oh, it's because you're family. And it is not because I'm family. She treats, I mean, we have plenty of employees now, and she treats all of her employees completely equal. And man, I see that. And just, I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We've all made mistakes. And I have no fear in picking up the phone and saying, hey, sorry, I've done something wrong, because I know, the grace, and we'll figure it out together. We'll fix it. We're all human, and we move on. So, I mean, just hearing her saying that and knowing that that is how she treats all of her employees, and the strong workplace that makes.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well.
And it's the honest truth.
Well,
it
thank
really
you.
is.
But you know what? It is so much easier this way. Think about being argumentative or accusatory, or, I mean, it's just so much easier to be kind and respectful. And I also start off our relationship with employees by saying, we don't talk amongst ourselves about a problem or another person. If there's a problem, I'm the problem fixer. I'm the one that needs to hear about it. And so we just have a really safe workplace. I feel like that people can know that, we're going to do what's best for everybody. And again, I truly learned that from Steve. That was not my natural tendency, friends. I mean, I'm a pretty, as you can probably gather just from the way that you hear me on social media, I just kind of tell it like it is. And sometimes I don't think about, oh, that might hurt somebody's feelings, or, might. So I had to, this is a learned behavior. So if you're the other end of the rope, there is hope for you. Look at me.
I definitely learned a lot too.
That's great. Suzanne, did you have anything else that you wanted to add related to your experience there at the Gardener's Workshop over the years?
Well, I can tell you that it's been awesome seeing Lisa grow, and how many people just appreciate and love her. And the story I love the best is, we did a lot of fairs and shows. So here's Lisa and Suzanne packing up the van full of stuff, traveling, 10 hours, unpacking, set up in a day. So the next day, Lisa has to talk. So Lisa has 200 people listening to her talk. And after she's done talking, what do? They all run to our booth. Where's Lisa? She has a book signing on the other side of the building. So Suzanne has 200 people in this little booth, and they're lined up down the aisle to be checked out. First of all, the other vendors and booths around us, their jaw is on the floor. And Suzanne has to figure out, and then they start helping each other. They're, oh, this is over here. All of the customers are helping each other, telling them, informing them. It's just wonderful, the environment when people want to help other people learn like Lisa does.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And, one thing I was going to say is something we actually talked about I believe in a staff meeting not too long ago. We were saying that, we feel like everybody treats the business like it's their own business. And and I think that's a big component of, making it work with a small team, but a dedicated team. And you guys are definitely a prime example of that. Yeah, Kelly, did you want to add something?
Yeah. So when you were talking about, funny stories or family story, I got thinking about it, and, hearing Suzanne talking about, so they got so busy on those shows that I started to join them some too. So when she says we used to pack the van, I don't think anybody can understand what that means. I mean, just from the it's from the roof and to the floor, every inch was packed. And we did a show in Richmond, which is about an hour away from us, called the Bazaar Bazaar. And it's, lots of different vendors around Christmas time in a huge open building. It's really loud, really busy. I mean, those were some good years. So I would just drive in for the day to help and drive home, where they would stay in a hotel. Well, one year I woke up with laryngitis, which I have never had in my life previously. I have never had it again, but I completely lost my voice. But, laryngitis, there's no other, that's all it is you lose your voice. And I 100% lost my voice and had to stay there. I mean, I worked the whole weekend with no voice, trying to check people out and make my voice work by screaming what their total was and selling gloves. And I mean, the whole weekend I had no voice.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just have to keep on trucking though.
I did, it's not like I felt bad, and people thought it was funny too, trying to listen to me over, these crowds of people everywhere, and just make it work,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Lisa, I mean, you have a great team here that you've put together, and I know it's continuing to grow now, but the core is still the strong family connection. And I think that's what part of what makes the Gardener's Workshop so special.
Thank you, Jessie. I totally agree. Moving into the future, I see that being a big piece of the future of the Gardener's Workshop, and, to build a legacy. And, that's a bit, being 61 now, you look at things so different than you did when you're Kelly's age. Or even Suzanne's age. Things look really different as you come into your golden years, so they say. It doesn't mean you're not going to be working. It's just all of a sudden things just become different for you. And I never dreamed of this day. I never, ever, oh my gosh, how many days did I almost croak in the field from heat stroke of cutting thousands of stems of flowers, and, it didn't matter that it was hot. There is no other day designated to do that. And our team and family has taken up that same attitude. And that's what really made this all. It's not that it's easy. It's just that we get up every single day and do it. And I don't mean that we work 7 days a week. I mean that we don't give up. We just keep pushing. And if one of us has a problem, we help push them, So, yeah, would never have done it without my family.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. I think this was a great way to kind of let people know, what the core of the group is, what the core of what we represent is. And so I want to thank both Kelly and Suzanne and Lisa for joining me. And I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. And I hope that if you like what you're hearing today, you can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcasts, and tell a friend about us, and maybe a family member too. So thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you so much, Jessie. Thanks, girls.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.